tell you something. The socialist left in this country is not hiding anymore. They have stopped pretending. They have put away the moderate costume, hung it up in the closet next to Walter Mondale's legacy, and they are done with the act. Michigan, a state that used to be the beating heart of American manufacturing, of union men, of guys who built cars with their hands and went home to a house they owned. Michigan just had a Democratic Senate primary. And who came out the other side? A man named Abdul El-Sayed, a man who campaigned with Hassan Piker. You know who Hassan Piker is? He's a Twitch streamer who once said on camera that America deserved September 11th. That is who Abdul El-Sayed chose to stand next to on the campaign trail. That is who he thought would help him win the working people of Michigan. And here's the thing that really gets me. They call this standing up for the middle class. Elsewhere on the Socialist Express, John Fetterman, the man who looks like he lost a wrestling match with a laundry machine, is out there with 800 pro-Israel students. Fine, good. But the rest of his party? They're being primaried from the left, my friends. Socialist candidates are winning. The fringe is becoming the floor. What does this mean? It means the Democratic Party, as you and I have known it, the party of JFK, the party that at least pretended to love America, is being consumed from the inside by people who think the problem with Venezuela was that they just didn't do it right. I'm Rick LeBow. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. Now, my friends, let us take a good long look at what is happening to the Democratic Party. Because I have to say, and I say this with all the humility I can muster, which is famously not much, I have been watching this coming for a long time, years, decades even, and it is now arriving at the station, right on schedule, and the conductor is wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt. Let's talk about Michigan. Let's talk about Abdul El-Sayed, who just won the Democratic Senate primary there. Now, El-Sayed is a physician. He's polished, he's articulate, and he is about as far left as you can park a car without falling into Lake Michigan. This is the man who has been out on the campaign trail with Hassan Piker. Now, I want to be very precise here because I think it matters. Hassan Piker is not some fringe nobody. He has millions of followers online. He's a hugely popular streamer among young people. And he said on a stream, on record, you can find it yourself, that America deserved what happened on September 11th. That is who Abdul El-Sayed went to for help turning out the base. And the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, was on the radio Saturday and said El-Sayed is crazy, his word, and that he opposed every single thing that has helped the workers of Michigan. Every tariff, every manufacturing incentive, every move to bring factories back. El-Sayed opposed it all. Think about that. The man running to represent the auto workers of Michigan opposed the policies that brought auto jobs back to Michigan, and he did it while pretending to stand for the working class. That is not a contradiction the drive-by media is going to highlight for you. That is not something you'll see on the Clinton News Network in heavy rotation. But it's true, and the people of Michigan are going to figure it out, because they are not stupid. Now, I want to zoom out a little, because Michigan is not happening in a vacuum. This is part of a pattern, a wave. Marsha Blackburn was on Hannity the other night, and she said it plain as day. Democrats are running to destroy the country. She said, they want to blow up the Constitution, which, my friends, is a slightly impolite way of saying what I have been telling you for years, that what we are watching is not your grandfather's Democratic Party having a spirited internal debate. This is a hostile takeover. The hard left is capturing the infrastructure of the Democratic Party, ward by ward, primary by primary, candidate by candidate. Look at what's happening nationally. You've got socialist primary wins all over the place. You've got Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. You've got candidates aligned with Hassan Piker and his crowd starting to notch real victories. The National Review, which, for all its faults, occasionally gets something right, called it the return of sentimental socialism. And I think that's actually a pretty good phrase because that's exactly what it is. It is sentiment, it is feeling, it is young people who have never read a history book feeling very strongly that if we just share everything equally, it'll be wonderful. There's an old thing I like to say. Liberalism is the most gutless choice you can make. And socialism is liberalism for people too impatient to wait for the government to do it gradually. You want to know what socialism delivers? Ask the Venezuelans. Ask the Cubans. Ask anyone who has actually lived it, not just written papers about it from a dorm room at the University of Michigan. The Calypso Louis crowd, the academic left, the people who have spent their entire lives inside institutions funded by other people's money. They have never built anything, never signed the front of a paycheck, never sat up at night worried about making payroll. And they are now becoming the face of the Democratic Party in states like Michigan. Now, the Democrats in Michigan, the establishment types, the moderate wing, they are panicking. They put out a statement urging unity after what they called bitter primary fights. Bitter. That's a word for it. The moderates are watching the Bernie Sanders wing eat their party alive, and they are begging the voters, please, please, come home. It's fine. We're still the party you remember. They are not. Now, here is where it gets interesting, and I want you to pay attention to this because this is the thing that the drive-by media is not going to tell you. El Sayed's support base. Who is campaigning with him? Who is turning out for him? His coalition includes people who are openly hostile to Israel, people who are openly hostile to American foreign policy, people who look at the American worker and see not someone to lift up, but someone to redistribute from. J.D. Vance nailed it. He said El Sayed's policies would devastate the middle class and destroy the auto industry. And he is right, because every left-wing economic program in history has done exactly that. Every time. The poor are not poor because the rich are rich, and the workers of Michigan are not struggling because there are too many factories open and too many people employed. But El Sayed's worldview is essentially the opposite of that. And yet, he won the primary, which tells you something. It tells you the Democratic base in Michigan has moved significantly leftward. The question, and it is a real one, is whether that base reflects Michigan as a whole. And I think the answer is no. I think the Republican candidate is going to find that Michigan voters will look at this socialist wave and say, not here. Not us. Because Michigan remembers what real prosperity looks like. Michigan knows what it means when a factory opens. Michigan knows what it means when a factory closes. And Michigan is not going to hand its Senate seat to a man whose campaign trail companion thinks America had September 11th coming. Now, I have been behind this microphone long enough to have watched the left try this before. They overreach. They always overreach. And when they do, the American people, the real American people, the ones who make the country work, who fill up the gas tanks and go to the jobs and fix the things that need fixing, they push back. They always have. The socialist wave is real. Don't misunderstand me. I am not minimizing it. These people are organized. They have money, they have energy, they have Twitch streamers with millions of followers, but they do not have America. They have a very loud faction of America, and loud, my friends, is not the same as right, and it is not the same as winning general elections in states like Michigan. Don't doubt me. All right, the roundup. Let's move through some of the other things happening in this great republic of ours. I've got a few more stories here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers, so let's get into them. First up, Todd Blanche, our new Attorney General of the United States, confirmed 50 to 49. Now, this thing was hanging by a thread for weeks. You had Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, our perennial Hall of Fame disappointments from the frozen North, voting with the Democrats to try to sink the nomination. And the Democrats were out there on CNN saying Republicans should know better than to confirm Blanche, telling Republicans what they should know better. This is the crowd that confirmed Eric Holder. This is the crowd that confirmed Merrick Garland. This is the crowd that thought it was fine to have a Justice Department that spent years weaponizing itself against a former president. And they have the nerve to go on Anderson Cooper's show and lecture anyone about standards for the Attorney General. Now, Chuck Grassley, God bless him, he is 80-something years old and still running circles around the caucus. Grassley basically told Blanche, stop overcomplicating this. Get it done. And Blanche did, and he got confirmed. And now we have a confirmed Attorney General, which is good. It is a good thing to have the Department of Justice led by someone who is actually confirmed and not just acting. The Democrats are furious, which, as always around here, we take as a sign we're doing something right. Now, next story, and this one is brief, but I cannot let it pass. Andrew Gillum. You remember Andrew Gillum. He ran for governor of Florida in 2018, almost won, almost. The left had him on the cover of every magazine as the future of the Democratic Party. He then had a rather unfortunate hotel incident in 2020, which we will not relitigate here. He was convicted of fraud charges. And now TMZ is reporting that Gillum is back in jail in Alabama after testing positive for methamphetamine. My friends, you can't make it up. You simply cannot make it up. The Democrats held this man up as their great hope for Florida, for the South, for the future. And he is now in an Alabama jail cell after a meth test. This is the party telling you how to run your life. Now, last thing in the roundup, and this one is actually important, and I want to give it its due. Sherrod Brown, former senator from Ohio, now running again. In 2015, Sherrod Brown was out there cutting the ribbon at Amazon data centers in Ohio, celebrating them, praising them, taking credit for them, jobs, investment, the future. Now he is running against them. He says data centers are draining the electric grid. He says they're bad for communities. He has completely 180 degrees flipped his position. Now, I want to be careful here, because the data center debate is a real one. These facilities draw enormous amounts of power. That is a real concern. Not because I have any sympathy for the environmental wackos, but because the grid is a practical thing that actual people depend on for actual electricity in their actual homes. And there is a real conversation to be had about how we expand power generation to meet the demand that comes with building the digital economy. But that is not what Sherrod Brown is doing. Sherrod Brown is not engaging in a principled debate about energy infrastructure. He is doing what Democrats do. He is following the polling. In 2015, Amazon data centers were popular, so he was for them. In 2026, there's grassroots opposition, so now he's against them. This is a man with a weather vane for a spine, and the people of Ohio have already sent him home once. Let's see if they want a second helping of that. All right, folks, we are coming up on the end of the program. And I want to leave you with something, because I think this is a moment that deserves a clear-eyed take. What you are watching in the Democratic Party right now, the socialist wave, the primaries, the Sherrod Browns flipping positions on a Tuesday afternoon, the party of Andrew Gillum and Abdul El-Sayed and Hassan Piker, this is not an accident. This is what happens to a party that stops believing in anything fixed. When you don't have principles, you have momentum. And right now, the momentum on the Democratic left is pulling hard toward the cliff. The American people are not stupid. They drive the cars, they work the shifts, they raise the kids, they pay the taxes. And when someone comes along and tells them that the solution to their problems is a government big enough to take everything and wise enough to give it back fairly, they know in their gut that that is a lie. They've heard it before. It did not work before, and it will not work now. The Republicans, for their part, need to hold the line. Stop being useless. I'm looking at you, Collins. I'm looking at you, Murkowski, and start doing the job the voters sent you there to do. America is still the greatest nation in the history of human civilization, not because the government made it that way, because the people made it that way. And those people are still out there. I hear from them. They are your neighbors. They are the ones in the trucks and the factories and the small businesses who have been told for 30 years that they are the problem. They are not the problem. They are the solution, and they are paying attention. I'm Rick LaBelle. This has been Rush Hour. Same time tomorrow, if they let us back on.